Hey everyone, Ms.E here, and today we are going to make a city scene. Now the reason why we're making a city scene today is because we've already made a few different landscapes. We've made a ocean landscape and we've made a spring landscape. So we've done a lot of nature-based landscapes. So now we're going to do a city-based one. So what you're going to need is a pencil, eraser, a coloring utensil. I have a marker with me because I'm going to outline the lines that I am drawing. I also have a ruler with me so that I can make some straight lines. So we're going to start by going to the foreground, the middle ground, and the background. The foreground is the part of the scene that you see up close. So in our spring landscape, that was the bush that was on the side, the flowers that were up front. So we're going to start with that first. So we're going to start with the foreground. And since we're doing a city scene, I'm going to do the street right here, and I'm going to do a little sidewalk. So I'm going to grab my ruler so I can have a straight line. And I'm going to just draw about the base of my ruler from one side to the other. I don't want to add too much because I want to see the buildings at the top. So I'm just going to show a little bit of the city street. So I'm just going to trace a flat line from one side to the other. And that's going to be my street. Next, I'm going to add my sidewalk. Now, our sidewalk is going to be smaller than our street. Also, we're looking at it farther away. This is closer to us, so our sidewalk is going to be a little bit closer to us, so it's going to be a little bit skinnier. So I'm going to draw another smaller line all the way over. And I'm going to add some parts to our sidewalk, because sometimes you see a sidewalk where it's just one long strip, but that's not typical. Usually you see it blocked off in chunks or in tiles. I'm just going to block mine off into chunks. So I'm just going to go all the way down. I'm just going to keep going all the way down. And we're just going to keep doing this. Like I said, you can do it as tiles. You can do it as brickwork, like if you're near like the center of the city. Sometimes you'll see some areas all bricked out. You can do it however you want. This is typically how I see it where I'm from. And I've made my sidewalk a little wide right here, so I'm just gonna break these tiles in half. And here we go. So we have our sidewalk. And as you can see, I just had a couple of extra lines go past my sidewalk. That's okay. I'm just going to take my eraser and I'm going to erase those extra points. All right. And next we're going to add our buildings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from our sidewalk and I'm going to draw 5 lines going up. And I'm going to do them at varying heights. So some of them are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller. But I'd like them to be straight. If you have them at an angle, they're going to look like they're falling down. So I'm just going to draw 5 lines starting from the sidewalk up. So I have one right here. I'm going to do one a little bit over and lower. I'm going to do a little one a little higher, not too much. That is my 3rd line. I'm going to do one way up here. I'm actually going to make this one super low. Once again, you gotta make sure that they are straight lines going completely straight up. So let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. I'm gonna draw one more line and I'm gonna draw it right here. You can have your lines be however you'd like them to be. I just chose 5 because I feel like 5 is a good number to start with for a project like this. All right, so now we've drawn our different lines. This is going to show that some of our buildings are going to be really tall, some of them not so much. So what you're going to do is you are going to make your wall fronts. So I'm just going to, we've drawn one side of each building, and I'm going to just add a top to them. Now, if you look at different types of buildings, our buildings have different types of roofs. We have some roofs where they're just like this, where they're completely flat. We have some that are at an angle. So I'm going to draw this one up a little bit higher, this line a little higher, because we have our building right here, its height is up here as opposed to this one that's lower. I'm also going to change the type of roof. So I had 2 flat roofs right here. So now I'm going to make this one at an angle. But yeah, take a look at different types of buildings and see what you can find, because some of them, they're at an asymmetrical angle like this. Sometimes they're flat. And they look like all different shapes and sizes. So I'm gonna keep making unique shapes. I'm also gonna add a little alleyway right here. So I'm gonna add another line, because sometimes our city walls, our city buildings are side by side and they're touching, but sometimes you have little alleyways or little side streets, little walkways. And so that's why I just did right there. I added an extra line to create this extra walkway. And you know what? I really like that, so I'm going to add another one right here. And I want to make this roof unique, make it different from the others. So I'm going to make it have an angle right there. You know what? I'm going to add one more line. I'm going to make it really tall, so we get a glimpse of a really tall building. And here we go. We have our city buildings. Now we're going to just add our details. That could be windows, that could be doors, it could be people in our buildings. So there's different types of doors that you can make. You could make just your typical square doors. Maybe your door is a double door where they have a push and pull bar right in the center. Maybe you have a unique door to go with a unique building and it has an archway. Maybe you just have one square door. Or maybe you have 2, one as an entrance and one as an exit. It's entirely up to you. These are your buildings. This is your city. So these are my doors for my buildings. And I'm gonna do a double door right here, but with a arch window at the top. So I think those are kind of cool. I'm going to make it another double door. And here's my arch window. All right, so now that we've made some doors, you can add windows to your doors or to your buildings. So I'm going to show you a few different types of windows. And let's get started. So one type of window that you can do is you could just do normal rectangles. Now you can use your ruler for this. I'm not going to use a ruler because I kind of like how our buildings are really straight, but our windows kind of have a little bit of personality to them. So you can do rectangular windows. If you have a window that goes from one side and it's touching the wall that it's connected to, it kind of implies that this window continues from the front and around. So that's one way that you can do that. So I'm going to just make another row of windows. Now I'm not going to do that on this side because these two buildings connect, so that'd be kind of weird having a window right here and it looks directly into another window. Another building. Another way that you can make these rectangular windows, but with the help of a ruler, is you can have a ruler, but just make a dotted line from the top, and then do it again for the bottom part of your window. This will make your line straighter, as you can see from here. See how they're a lot straighter this way, as opposed to doing the windows that I created. But there is no wrong way for this project to make your windows. So I'm going to leave this building alone so I can show you other ways of making windows. Another way that you can make windows is you can just make some lines. And what you do is you make two lines really close together, and then you make your next two lines farther apart. So the reason why we're making two lines really up close is because your windows need something to sit on. If you don't have that, the windows don't have something to be connected to, so they could just pop out. So yeah, so you just make these little lines going all the way down. And I'm going to continue up until about here because my door frame is right about there. So the next thing that you do is you just make some lines going down, but you do not draw a line between the two lines that are connected. So this is kind of like your window panes. And you would see these in kind of like tower buildings, like in the city, maybe in some department stores. I'm going to do one more like this. When you draw your buildings off of the paper, it implies that there's more the building goes on past the paper. So we don't know how big it actually is. So I'm going to add a couple more lines right here. Whoops. Moved the ruler. Oops. Did it again. And then I'm going to show you one more type of window, and it's just drawing windows however you like. Maybe you want to have a window in the center of your two doors, and maybe that will have a potted plant right here. You can have your flowers right here, maybe some leaves. Because it's so far away, you don't need to necessarily draw every single petal. Maybe you have your building have very unique windows. Like maybe they're an archway. In which you can see inside the building. Maybe it's just a unique style. And you can have your building with whatever type of windows that you'd like. I like to think if someone had windows like this, that maybe they were advertising window panes or something like that. If you look at some buildings, they're designed to look like their product. So this kind of looks like an old-timey radio in my opinion. But yeah, so I'm going to continue drawing my picture, and I'll show you my end result. All right, and here is my final drawing of my buildings. So when you're drawing buildings, you don't have to just draw doors and windows. You can add some extra things. For example, over here, like I said earlier, this reminded me of a old radio. So I made the name of the building Old Radio. I also, instead of adding windows to the entire building, I turned this into a theater where I have a giant billboard up at the top, the name of the building, and then a few posters for upcoming plays in this theater. And also, you can make your buildings to be whatever you'd like them to be. Like, maybe this is a building for bubbles, or maybe it's for cheese. Really let your creativity go wild with this project. So I'm going to color mine in. You can add other details besides just your buildings, like what is the sky going to look like? Is it going to be a sunny day, or maybe it's going to be a nighttime scene? Are you going to have cars on your street? Are there going to be people walking around? So take your time and really get creative with this project. I'm going to show you my final picture, what it looks like when it's all nice and colored, and then we'll end the video. All right, and here is my finished project. So I took a couple of creative liberties, and I used crayons, but you can use whatever you'd like to use. You can use markers to color yours in, you can use colored pencils, even paint, maybe some watercolor paint, but I chose crayons because I like that for my sky. I like how you can blend the colors together using crayons. So I chose to make a sunset, one, because we've drawn a lot of blue skies, but also two, in a few of my buildings, there's a lot of blue in it, and I didn't want to use too much blue in it. But then I was thinking, if I made a night sky, I also have a lot of black in my picture, so we'd kind of lose some of the buildings by making a night sky with a black background. So I looked up what different sunsets might look like, and this is what I chose. I chose to go from what's called a gradient, where you go from one color to another color, of blue to purple to red and a little bit of orange. So that's what I did for my project. I'd love to see what you all have done. So you can send it to me via Google Classroom or through Dojo. So with that being said, I hope to talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.